So here we have a perfect example of, if you've watched the ankle and foot stiffness and pitching video, you've seen the lower leg sequencing, you've heard me talk about lower leg stiffness and being a fascia-driven athlete. This is a perfect example. I want people to understand that these are two examples of how we see kids' rear and front leg operate in terms of their connectivity and fascial tensioning. So we want to remember, if we remember from the ankle and foot stiffness video, active and loaded tension with fascia-driven athletes, what that means for us is that the system that's allowing us to propel ourselves forward is pelvic-driven. When we have stiffness, what we want to understand that happens is, for many kids who aren't naturally pretension, naturally, I guess some would say explosive, they have to have a pretension set within the ankle, foot, Achilles, calf, hamstring, and butt. We've called it a co-contraction. That means that all muscles work together, and that's because of fascia. That system links, and if we've watched our foot stiffness and hip drive video, this is a further example of that video, so watch that. It links the femur, the tibia, and the fibula to its attachment site, which is our pelvis. We lock the shin in place. And so what we're going to see in the near side athlete, the one that had the yellow, you're going to see that the ankle and the Achilles stay relatively in the same position. We see shoe crease here. And as they move to jump, I want you to notice how little movement there is from the heel as they're pushing through. And then we see plantar flexion, and I want you to look at the muscle belly of the calf. Look how the calf really maintains the same length. And this is what I've talked about when I said that our muscles don't necessarily contract, and it's an example of, in the ankle and foot stiffness video, when I showed the examples of a fascia-driven element, meaning the fascial properties, the connective tissue, our collagen fibers, all those things are contracting within the foot to link the calf, the hamstring, and the butt. So we see a very different length change of the calf muscle. We don't see it really going through eccentric and concentric contractions. We see this isometric kind of just stayed state that allows us to understand and really visualize now what it would look like for our athletes if they are fascia-driven and they are moving through their pelvis. Now, we see that there's very little change until he plantar flexes completely, so drives into the ground. Notice he still follows the same principles we've talked about. I want you to see how his spine and shin literally work in the same motion. Now, if we look at the young lad on the opposing side, and we see that heel stay down. This is the foot positioning we see a lot of our athletes in from our rear and our front leg as they go towards launch. This is a muscle-driven movement, meaning that he's going to almost go through full range of motion through his ankle, and I want you to watch. Look at his calf. Look at the calf change. You see the calf. You can see the belly of the calf change right here, and this is what I mean. His ankle almost goes through a full range of motion. This is a calf and quad dominant drive. And so what you also see is, I want you to notice the different variation of where our athlete up front gets some more diagonal timing, and because this is a full calf contraction, look at the calf again. You'll see the shadow go up, higher, mid. Look at how much change. That's a calf and quad dominant movement. And what do we see a lot of kids finish in? This movement right there, that position, especially with our front leg. And this is what I mean by, you can see that he's still got similar positions here. Spine and shin match. But I've always told us that position is one thing. Now we have to learn to work from that position, and we have to work in a fascia-driven element. So we have to, this is, like I said, one of the best examples I've ever seen of helping us understand an athlete, and our athletes in particular, why I talk about the Achilles tendon being pretension and loaded so much, and why I have us work on so many isometric drills that involve contractions and learning contractions of and through the transverse arch, through the fourth and fifth metatarsal, with the hamstring and glutes involved, and with the knee flexed and bent. That is a staggering difference. And I want you to notice, look at this position. Look how high the knee stays. Now let's look at our other young lad when he pushes completely. Look at a shorter change. Everything gets affected when we're in this position because we have a more hip-driven athlete, through here. We see the creases in the shorts, hips engaged. Very little tension here. Look at the hamstring. Very little hamstring involvement. Yes, our athlete on the left is more muscular, but we are not seeing the same changes in striations, shading, or any of those things. And this is a great, great example of understanding where we want our athletes to be. And the things that change those properties for athletes are tendon stiffness, our isometric drills, understanding and learning how to co-contract. That's why groundwork, wall work, and then moving into hamstring walks, corkscrew walks, all those things are so important to help our athletes understand and develop this type of stiffness. Because so many of our